the responsibility, the bulk of the responsibility and accountability lies on the students right now.
Right.
So if they want to abuse this power, we as teachers, we cannot do much. They can abuse, and there are many ways to abuse this accountability and responsibility given to them.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Ketchup Club. On today's episode, I have a friend of mine, Mr. Eugene Wong. Mr. Eugene is a school teacher, and considering how the schools are closed and have been closed for some time, I figured this will be a good time to catch up with him. So, Eugene, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Cassian. It's so good to be interviewed.
Well, thank you for accepting. I didn't know if you would be free to accept, seeing that you're busy with school nowadays, right?
Yes. As long as it's a school term, I'll be busy with online classes.
So right now there's a school term going on.
Yes.
Right. When did it start?
It started as usual, normal, which is 20th January this year.
Okay. All right. Okay. Sorry, I'm asking you a little bit of a wonky question because we don't see kids going to school. We don't see school buses. So I have no idea. We were just chatting a little bit earlier on just now also. I'm going to jump a little bit. But Malaysia has been on, off with their school schedule. And I think they recently stopped physical school. I think as you were saying, in March, right?
Yes.
In March. And then online school was going on until now, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so how does online school work? By the way, do you have like holidays in the middle and all?
We follow the school calendar exactly as it is, yeah. So Monday to Friday, as usual, online classes. The time is as usual, school time, 7:45 until around, because mine is primary school, so until around 1:35. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the compulsory slot for primary schools. So it has been going on.
So during physical school, I remember we used to have really hard recess. What about online school?
It's still the same. It's exactly the same.
Wait. So you have like what, a 40-minute or 20-minute break in the middle?
For primary schools, we have a 20-minute break.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. I thought that the breaks would be a little bit more spaced out, seeing that it's online, But okay, that's not bad.
You see, when online classes started, it was new for everyone. Even it was new for the education ministry. So they were doing a lot of testing out of what type of timetable would fit an online setting. So a lot of trial and error, but at the end of the day, they have produced a set timetable, which is very, very similar to physical classes.
Right. Okay. So they finally found a happy medium, I suppose.
That works at the moment.
Okay. Sorry for jumping all over the place. So let's get back to you. So where are you working now?
I'm working in Melaka. I'm a primary school teacher. I teach in a Chinese vernacular school in Bachang.
Okay. I remember when we were speaking sometime last year, you were in another Chinese school, right, in Melaka?
Yes, further away to Ching.
So in the current school, what level and what subject do you teach?
Okay, when it comes to subject, I'm teaching English and also PE, PJ lah. Okay, so the range of the age of students, I teach actually year 1, 4, 5, 6. So it's basically all across the board, the youngest to the oldest lah.
The reason why I was really excited to get you on the show, right? I think we spoke about this maybe 2 weeks ago, is because when we were in school, we take things for granted because what we know is we wake up in the morning, go to school, come back, tuition, and the cycle keeps going. But once we are at the age that we are at now, and we think back, life was so much more easier. And the teachers who were there throughout, being there for us every day, teaching, and we had no idea the struggles they went through. So in hindsight, retrospectively looking at it, I respect teachers, like the way you guys do what you do and all that. It's really a lot. It's like you dedicate your life for this, right? So before we move on, I want to share a little bit of a story. When I was 13, I went to St. David's High School, Melaka. It was one of those, they usually have this majlis, right? This whatever events and all that. And so they usually have shows. So me being the genius that I am, I said, you know what? This is a good time to orchestrate or rather direct a play.
Okay.
So they each started back then. To those of you watching who don't know, Eugene tends to be my tag team partner or my director or my right-hand man when we do plays. We've done how many plays now? 3, 4?
Three, I think.
And these are big ones. So we tend to do a better job now. But back then, 13 years old, I had no idea what I was doing. And I'm a huge Star Wars fan. And Star Wars Episode 3 just came out at that point. So I decided we are reenacting Star Wars.
Okay.
So I was Darth Vader. And we caught a friend of mine who was a little bit shorter than the rest of us.
Okay.
We painted him green. Stuck some elf ears on it,
Okay.
and he was Yoda. And then we got some friends, there's the Anakin, there was Padme Amidala, there was Obi-Wan Kenobi. The play went on for 45 minutes. And imagine the entire school is sitting down and watching us do this rubbish, and everyone teased us for the rest of the year. And all of the teachers sat through it and watched us. They didn't complain. They just laughed and smiled and egged us on. And I tell you, if any of the teachers pulled me aside or canceled that show that day, I wouldn't have dreamt so big, in doing whatever plays that we ended up doing, So that's something like, it's a stupid story, but at the same time, something that reflects the teachers, and the way they are. So do you have any stories to share?
In relation to that, I used to be a director also for a short play based on our literature books, Story of the Rain God.
Oh.
We did that, we reenacted that, but the group of jokers that we are, me and my friends at that time, St. Francis Institution, we actually produced a play based on that story lah. So, but it was more of a parody lah, you can say that. And you're right, the teachers, no matter how ridiculous we were, and as we were thinking back of what nonsense that we have produced on stage and whatever we did on stage was literally so nonsensical, but the teachers did not do much to, stop us, because in a way what we did was still acceptable and it's still part of the story. It is still in line with the story. It's just that our execution of it was so hilarious. Our execution was so, I would say, creative in the sense that nobody knew the other side of the story like this. So yeah, the teachers were silently smiling, and they know in their hearts that, like right now I'm a teacher. I can say that even I understand, because they know that this experience for these students, even though it could be a hilarious one or a silly one, it is still an experience. So they don't take that away from you. They are silently allowing you to experience life as it is with friends.
As we spoke on a little bit earlier, schools have been on, off, on, off, on, off. And right now they are on, but they're off, meaning to say that there's no physical interaction between you and your students.
Mm.
So before we get in on anything, do you miss your students?
In a way, yeah, I do miss them. I do miss the interactions that we have, because when there is a physical class, the interaction is raw. the interaction is instant and the interaction is real at that time. So what online classes take away is that real interaction lah.
That real connection, as you mentioned, I believe, and I'm not a teacher in any way, but I believe it really does play a certain important role in the growth of the child and the student, academically, in whatever way, And let me ask you, what do you think? Because I have my opinion on this. How do you believe, or how do you think that this cycle of on, off, how does it affect the child's growth in terms of education? Because, they are lacking a certain integral part, in their schooling life, right? So what's your take on it?
As schools are on and off, it requires the students to be very adaptable. It requires them to be aware, alert, and able to unlearn and relearn. It gives them a higher percentage of accountability towards their own process of learning. It gives them more responsibility of their own development. Now, I'm talking in the sense of primary school students, yeah? Primary school students, normally, the teacher is very heavily involved in the development and very heavily responsible for their development. But now the bulk of it is also somehow transferred to the guardians at that time, could be parents, grandparents, or whoever at home at that time, and towards the students themselves. So it really affects them, whereby they really need to be on their feet. They really need to be alert and know what to do. So this is actually bad news for those who are unable to do this.
Yeah.
It's bad news for those who are slower, who require a personal touch, who require a slower pace, and who require that physical presence of someone telling them to do something. It affects them, and it might stump them, but in any case, we cannot use that as an example or as a reason or an excuse, saying that, oh, because of this they are like that, because of that. Everyone will play a role, the student themselves, the teachers, and their parents, in shaping and allowing them to develop correctly, even though it's on and off, on and off.
Right. So ideally, if the parents are on it, the grandparents, guardian, etc., they are on it, then fine. This child, this student, will have a proper guidance throughout. What if the parent, the guardian, whoever who's overseeing this child, right, is not on it? So the kid loses, because as opposed to you guys, that's what you do. You're there, you're that fixed point for the kid to follow and do whatever, right? So let me ask you, the last you saw your students was in March, correct? So before that was January, yeah?
Yeah.
So in the middle, right, when they came back to school, did you see a sense of difference? In a sense, like, did they drop the ball from the last time you saw them? Because before that was all just online school, right? Did they drop the ball, or were they like on it?
Not all students. So basically, when we reopened school, and that was the first time after a very long time that we have not seen them, and we have been carrying on first online classes. That phase of first online classes, we teachers were already trying to adapt ourselves, trying to be tech savvy, trying to adapt to this, to that, and trying to make sure they understand and what we teach. And they themselves are adapting to that. So I would say the first time when it reopened, many of them dropped the ball. Many of them were changed. Many of them, some even had a changed idea of school, whereby last time they were maybe hardworking, then now became lazy suddenly. Yeah. And a lot of lacking, and then a lot of drop the ball. But then in the same way, we cannot say for all students. Many other students who thrived in that chaos also actually did well.
So in a way, right, the way I see it, this online school, it helps build a student, helps equip a student different than the way we were taught to be equipped, They are learning to care for themselves at this very young age. Like It's either you shape up or you ship out, you know, that sort of a thing. Do you agree?
Yes. Like I said, the responsibility, the bulk of the responsibility and accountability lies on the students right now.
Right.
So if they want to abuse this power, we as teachers, we cannot do much. They can abuse, and there are many ways to abuse this accountability and responsibility given to them.
Okay. So moving on to the next one, online school. So I'm going to ask you a spitfire question, and you have to answer immediately, right?
Okay, I'll try.
Online school, does it work?
Not
You
always.
lost. You lost.
Okay, in my defense, I don't think there's a yes/no answer to that.
Okay, fair enough. Do you want to tell me about it?
Okay, online schools, does it work? Right now, we have not seen the fruits. Okay, I would say that we are still in that process. We have not seen the fruits yet. However, we are limited as teachers. We are limited to what we can teach, what we can disseminate information about, and we want to say whether it works or not. You see, online classes, online system of learning has only been introduced to tertiary education.
Yes, correct.
And for those who are maybe one who wants to like carry on with masters or PhD, it's introduced to them because they are accountable, they are responsible, they know what to do when it is time to do it. So physical schools, in a way, subtly, or should I say indirectly, forces students to come to school because they require this guidance, they require this push. So when you give that bulk of responsibility to them, and if they don't know how to handle it, they will abuse it, and they don't know how to use it. So online schools for children are very subjective. It's very shaky.
On that subject, what do you do and how do you carry them out?
Okay, normal classes, we will carry out our lesson planning. We have to plan every lesson before every class, and we just carry them out, but based on, of course, there will be changes towards our lesson planning catered towards online teaching. So like physical activities, grouping, and work like that will be limited in a certain way. So how we do that, we carry on, like for example, if there's classes for 1 hour, 1 hour classes, which is 2 periods for primary schools. 2 periods is 1 hour, 30 minutes, 30 minutes. Okay. So we will have, most of the time we will have Google Meet. Yeah, so when we are teaching, we will carry on as usual. We'll do our lesson planning, and after that, some activities for them, and then after that, we'll brief them on what's coming for the next class and brief them with their homework. That's the normal class procedure. So when it comes to 1 period classes, for example, 30 minutes only, the government has given us the opportunity for teachers to be flexible, whereby this is called a tutorial period. Tutorial periods whereby we give our instruction and homework or whatever we want to give through Google Classroom. So Google Classroom is there for students to check their instruction and this thing at their own time and at their own way. So that tutorial 30 minutes period is a bit flexible in that sense, because they understand if the student were to be on screen 7:45 until 1:35, it will be a bit exhausting.
Yeah. Okay. So from what I'm hearing, this then increases your workload, right?
When it comes to lesson planning, it will be a little bit more tedious because we must take into consideration the attention span of young children. Their attention span is very short. So because of that, even in normal physical classes, we try our best to gauge their attention. But now here, we don't have that physical touch. We don't have that physical movement. We cannot walk around the class to show that our presence is there. So what we can do is we have to create a very interactive PowerPoint. We have to find videos that are very suitable and very interactive, and which most of the cases is quite difficult. So we turn out to be video editors ourselves. So to gauge the attention of students in online classes will be a bit more difficult. Yeah,
that is difficult. But another thing that I figure is really difficult for you guys is the attendance of the students? Because now, there's no attendance taking. I mean, there is, but then, it is different, right? You can't force them to get out of bed to come to classes. How do you attack this? Or rather, how do you deal with this?
I only can speak for my school. My school, I would say the attendance for online classes would be in an average of 80% to 70%, which is very good for online classes. Previously, when the online classes first started, we had really, really low percentage, but this is the same for throughout the country. So to even have 70 or 80 or even 90% of attendance of the entire school, it's a very good achievement because, like you said, it depends on the students' capability of waking up early to turn on the laptop or phone to actually be there at that time for Google Meets and stuff like that. So how do we tackle such situations? When we have to ping, we have to give a lot of reminders on WhatsApp and Telegram and whatever platform we are using, and a lot of reminders for students who are very forgetful and this thing. So if we don't reach them, then we have to contact their parents, which is also very troublesome for their parents and stuff like that. So that will be last option, of course. We don't want to disturb the parents.
Do you have any students, or rather have you came across or heard of any students who skip classes on purpose and
Of
don't
course.
tell their parents?
Yes. There are many who turn on their Google Meets and say that their video camera has a problem, and they turn off their video camera, and they see their speaker has a problem, so they don't answer, and they are not able to type out their answers because, or maybe limited language and not being able to communicate that well. So they are basically a ghost, a character on that Google Meet. So this will be even more evident when we have ended the class. Okay, thank you everyone. We have ended the class, and then everyone has left the meeting except this person.
So they're not there. We're never there.
They're not there. They're basically not there. And once in a while, when you have accidental video opening, then you will see them running with their brothers inside that. So things like that, it's kantoi lah. You know that they are not paying attention.
Okay, so how do you attach accountability to this kind of behavior? Can you do it?
The way that I know is to actually communicate with this person personally through WhatsApp and asking them to actually pay more attention, because face-to-face physical classes, we would actually reprimand this person and tell them to be accountable and tell them to not repeat this. So we cannot do that now, so we have to do it by messaging or call.
Those are the rogue ones lah. What about I'm pretty sure you have kids in your school who come from poor backgrounds, don't have phones, or rather they have many siblings, they don't have enough laptops, whatever. So what about them?
Yes, this is one of the biggest issues for online classes. You see, I only can speak for my school, of course. They will determine those who are below the poverty line, or those who cannot afford, or those who have financial problems at home. And it's very good that my school has the Parent Teachers Association, the PIBG, and the Board of Governors, the LPS. They together raise funds to buy phones, devices for students who cannot afford. So in that sense, the teachers and the parents are helping out for those.
In the event a kid doesn't have laptop, doesn't have this, doesn't have that, cannot attend class as much, so in other words, they're missing the train, they're not studying as much, right? When they come back to school next year, they are basically missing one whole year, almost a year of education. Will they be retained? Has this been spoken about?
This is another big issue for online classes, and it has been going on. It's a hot topic. So the education ministers have created many ways of tackling this type of issues. On the first line of defense towards these type of things, we have to make sure they learn how, give them, communicate with them, and understand what's their problem, understand how teachers can help, understand how we can give offline work for them, understand how they can practice even without Google Meet and not being able to meet and stuff like that. But as Google Classroom is available, they can even do their homework the next day. We even give them a grace period of 2 weeks to do their homework. So these efforts are really catered towards students to actually learn. We give them the platform, we flatten the road for them to actually run. So if they don't run, that is really up to them. So when it comes to retaining them, no, we cannot retain. The process of retaining has been long forgotten, long time ago already. So they will have to continue on the next year, for example, year 3 going to year 4, and they will have to start with a void if they don't really catch up. And it is more work for teachers to bring this student at the same par with everyone else. We call this Muric the teacher.
You see, I know we spoke on it a little bit just now, that this whole online school thing, it really awakens the inner, self-sustainability of a student to survive, But do you think, like for kids, right? Let's just say 9-year-old, 8-year-old, 10-year-old. In your opinion, do you think that this is something that is able to be woken up within them? Or are we just expecting too much from these kids,
You see, students, we cannot see every student as equal, but we cannot underestimate every student at the same time. We have seen students who come from terribly poor background, terribly limited backgrounds, and they are striving in chaos, becoming the best of the best, becoming the cream of the crop. Because of their challenges, they work hard, and whatever it is, they manage to pull through with the guidance of everyone. They manage to pull through. So as teachers, we cannot underestimate anyone. We have to guide them towards it. So want to say that wrong to assume that they can do it? Actually, no. We have to assume that they can do it, and we have to guide them so that they can do it. Because every child is able, unless, of course, with physical and defects, or should I say mental defects and stuff like that. But that's all under a different category. When it comes to normal students, they should be able to.
I love your answer. It's really inspiring to hear, when we motivate people, but when I hear it from you, a teacher who understands the nooks and crannies, the difficulties of, educating and bringing a child in school, right? When you guys at the core of it believe in these students that much, it's really moving. I know, judging by the numbers of the new COVID cases and all that, we're not going to be having physical interactions in school anytime soon, right? But in a perfect world, reopening of schools, would you have it? Yes or no?
Yes.
Why would you pick reopening of schools now, seeing that, online schools can be really fruitful? Why would you say we need to still reopen schools?
Reopening of schools, like I said before, will allow teachers to have that personal touch, will allow that teachers to have that personal communication, instant communication with students, and will have a more detailed evaluation of each student. Because right now they want to forego a lot of examinations. So instead of summative evaluation, now they want to focus more on formative evaluation. So in this sense, they want to make sure students improve. They don't want so much focus on final exams anymore. It's more of how they develop throughout the process. So in evaluating such a development, we need to be detailed. We need to be there. We need to have that personal touch. We need to be, and even one of the criteria would be their facial expressions.
Wow.
Correct. Even in the criteria, it will be how they react to certain stories, how they react to certain characters, how they react to certain moral values. All these things are into consideration as how we observe. So when a teacher blanks out in class, they're actually observing.
Wow. Okay, wait. I need to ask you. Let's just say a child reacts a certain way to a story that you're saying, right? what does that expression tell you, or rather, how does it aid you in your teaching? What do I say? Experience, is it?
Yeah. How they react, it depends on how they react. Of course, it must be in line with what we are teaching about.
Okay.
For example, if we tell them a story, we tell them how this character reacts to personal experiences, maybe of serious issues, of maybe we are tackling serious issues through stories lah, so
Right.
that
Okay.
we can give them a vicarious experience. So if they react positively towards it, then we know that this person is actually able to think, able to give a critical explanation of why this person is feeling like that. And they will be able to give us a solution to this problem. That's what we want to tackle. When we see the student is understanding metacognitively why this character is feeling like that, then we know this child is able to solve problems. This child is able to think critically. But if they were to feel empathy towards this character, that too we are looking for. And if they have no reaction, then we know, number one, could be they are not sensitive emotionally, and they are not, maybe it could be due to language barrier. That means we have to work on this too. But of course, we want to tackle first will be the language.
My Lord, I never knew all these things play an important role in your teaching. What, syllabus?
Yes, in our entire syllabus.
Incredible. And this is something that they teach you in, the teaching school, is it?
Teaching school, they will in general do it, yeah. But then when it comes to teaching real life as a teacher, when we are sitting through many courses, then when we come to actually sit down and read the thick documents that are given to us, actually when we are practicing it slowly, we will understand what is the actual intention of the education system. It is very ideal, but it's very challenging.
So if schools were to be reopened, they will probably need to get people vaccinated. And I think I read the news today, teachers are starting to be vaccinated. Although not all. Have you been vaccinated already?
I'm waiting for my second dose. I think in the coming week, yes.
All right, okay. And what about your colleagues? Have you heard from them?
My colleagues, most of them have already been vaccinated. Some of them still waiting for their first dose. But it is obvious that teachers are being vaccinated quicker than others.
Apparently, kids, they're looking at kids ages 12 and above to possibly be vaccinated also. But I don't think they've already started, or rather started discussing this in Malaysia, because they have a lot more people to vaccinate. So I think they need to get past that before they can even think about the kids. But apparently the kids are going to be vaccinated also. Okay, so let's just say everyone's vaccinated, we're all good, and you're going back to school on Monday. What do you think are the possible first issues that you could be facing in your new term face-to-face?
One of the issues would be how they have dropped the ball, how we have to pick them up from where they left off, how we have to, but first and foremost, on the practical side, how much of work we have to mark. We have to check their homework for months of homework, and we have to make sure they are doing it right and stuff like that. Of course, we won't be able to 100% sieve through everything, but we will get a rough idea on how their development progress is. If this student has been submitting their work frequently, then we will understand their progress. But those of them who have not submitted, those will be the difficult ones to evaluate.
Speaking of evaluation, do you have exams for these kids now?
Okay, when it comes from my school, we have managed to complete a term of exam when the school was having physical classes. Yes, we managed to finish that. So because of that, we are not so because we are not chasing on quota. I think there is a certain quota that we need to fill in, whereby we need certain marks for evaluation, physical academic marks. So in cases where you need to do exams, some schools have opted to have a timed Google form exam, whereby they create a Google form, because Google Forms now can have multiple choice questions, A, B, C, D, can even answer subjective questions, can even write essays in it.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe time would be starting at 10:30 and will finish at 11:30, and then they will just switch off the receiving end lah.
Okay, and this has not been done yet, right?
I have heard of some schools that have planned to do it next week.
Next week, okay.
Yes.
Have they done it before, or next week is going to be like the first test run?
I'm not sure, but should be the first.
Okay, all right. I think it could work, you know. It really could.
Yes.
It may work, but I guess we'll only know next week. Okay, so we've reached the tail end of our conversation. So now let's speak about the future of schools. We've seen online schools, we've seen physical schools. No, wait, before that, now the Olympics are going on. What physical school had and what online school doesn't have is sports. I believe sports is an integral part of your academic structure, right? How can you expect Olympians to bring back gold medals when we don't have proper sports education, you know? Is this a negative point, you know, for online schools?
Okay, it is. It actually is. It's like I said before, I was teaching PE, PJ. Yeah, my classes for PJ are still going on, and we only can focus more of theory. When it comes to sports and their rules and equipment and stuff like that, we only can do theory and Google Forms and maybe just to test the students out. We have to educate them and then test them on theory. When it comes to practicing, that's where our limit is, because they don't have the equipment at home. Even if they do, we cannot be teaching one student. We have to teach the entire class. So that's the limit there. They only can learn theory when it comes to sports, when it comes to rules, when it comes to all that important things. But when it comes to physical health, that one we can do. That one we are doing it. For example, we show them some videos of that we do, or maybe we find from YouTube where other teachers are doing exercises that is specific for the syllabus. Then we will do it and we will cater that, and then we will give a project for the students to do it and record themselves. So in that way, they are still doing it at home if they do it.
In all honesty, I feel really bad for the kids nowadays, you know, who are forced to be in, like, you know, going to this online school. They're missing out real important parts of their lives.
Yes.
These parts, because when I think about school, I think about the nonsense that I used to do in school, you know, or rather the primary school, how I used to play, and I used to come back home with my clothes dirty from top to bottom, you know, dirty. And my mom asked, "Did you play?" No, I didn't play. Or in schools, the amount of times my teachers would get so angry at my friends and I, you know, for making noise or doing whatever, airplanes and all that. Kids are missing out this important part.
Yes.
But who can you blame, you know? Can you blame? Okay, so we've spoken about online schools and physical school, right? Let me ask you, put head to head, which is better?
If you want to talk about primary school, I would say physical school is better.
Okay. So, judging by the fact that the world and Malaysia has already seen both these sides, right? There is a real possibility that there could be an introduction of hybrid school. I'm just saying it out of my own opinion, but I'm telling you there is a possibility. Do you think so, or do you not think so?
When it comes to hybrid schools, I think this pandemic has prepared teachers and students for that. If they want to implement hybrid schools, I think it's possible, but first they would have to tackle the issues of gadget availability and internet stability before they can implement 100% of hybrid types of schools.
Let's just say 5-6 years from now. Do you think these kids going through this online school, this half and half thing, right? Do you think that they will have some certain effects on them, like negative effects in terms of their education?
When it comes to negative side effects, maybe there will be maybe lack of experience, like you say, the enjoyments of being in school and all that. They will lack that. But if they were serious in their discipline and working academically, they can overcome that. Like you said, only as we grow older, only we start to realize how our teachers are struggling. But it's very important as teachers ourselves not to abuse the power that we have. As teachers, we are able to abuse power in any case, in any individual. Anyone is able to abuse power. But as teachers, we are accountable with that integrity whereby we cannot abuse the power. So whatever we can do for the students, we should do for the students. So if the students are lacking, because like you said, in cases where schools have no internet access, schools have no tabs or gadgets for these online classes, the teachers are actually following SOP, giving the students modules, physical modules for them to do at home and stuff like that. So teachers everywhere are trying their best. I only can speak for teachers of my school. So everyone has a part to play in it.
Okay. Before we part, I need to express my sincerest admiration to, people like yourself, teachers, and all the teachers around. In 2019, I volunteered to be a teacher in Sunday school.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Yes, you would know all about it. So for those watching, Eugene was a teacher also I think still is, right? You still are, yeah. So I thought I'll be a genius and try it out. I tried my best, but I can tell you, I have a serious different set of respect for you guys after trying it, because an inquisitive mind will keep asking you questions and you better be equipped to answer it, because it's so different from studying. Teaching is so different from studying. So yeah, you have my respect. And with the current situation, with everything that is against you, for what you guys are doing for these kids, they may not understand it now, but in the future, they will. What you're doing is unprecedented. So my hat's off to you guys.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, Eugene, for accepting to join me on this episode. Thank you for telling me so many stuff that I didn't know. And hopefully this is also informative to the viewers who are watching. So Eugene, I hope our paths will cross again, just like how I tell everyone else, under better circumstances, I suppose. And see you soon.
See you soon too.